What's going on? It's your boy Tevin West Talks Radio. Listen, I came here on this pod tonight to speak on some soccer situations we got going on here internationally. United States soccer team, national soccer team, um, was in the Nations League for CONCACAF, and they lost to Panama in the semifinals. And they also lost to Canada in the third place game. Now, a lot of people is American fans, U.S. men's national team fans are like, kind of like surprised, like, dang, like, what's going on? Because we got a great uh, European coach, a decent European coach, Mauricio, Mauricio Pochettino. And he was a respected player as well. He coached Tottenham, which is my favorite soccer team as well. Got him to a actually no, he didn't. Andreas Villas-Boas got him to a Champions League final. But the point I'm trying to make is just because you paint a car, your car could be a nice car, but just because you paint it doesn't mean it's gonna run well. If you already have some problems with it beforehand, and I'm saying that to say, it, the United States national team has a culture problem. It has a this is not the sport in which, in the very fiber of our culture, we don't feel it like that, and that's crazy because at this particular time in history, on paper, this is the team that this team hasn't been any better. This is on paper because of we have an assortment of players spread out all over the world that play at different countries, and then we have a handful of players that play at top flight clubs around the world. I would say more than a handful. Maybe two handfuls. You know, that have played and currently play at top clubs in the world, around the world, not just MLS. So a lot of the fans, of the U.S. national team want to know, like, why aren't we having success? We have a proven European coach who understands ball. We also have players that play around the world for first division clubs, in Europe. Why aren't we having success? I think the reason why we're not having success is because we don't really feel it like that. It doesn't mean as much to us. A lot of when it comes to intensity and things of that nature, and keeping your foot, like when you play as a, when you play sport, it's a thing. You're supposed to keep your foot on the other team's neck at all times. And I can just see, like, you can even just look at you don't even have to look at the whole game. You can just look at the highlights of the games when the U.S. men's national team plays, and you can see that there's a putting there's a laissez-faire attitude to the way that they play. It's laissez-faire attitude mixed with robotics. What do I mean by that? Last one of the podcasts that I did this season, it was talking about the culture of youth soccer in America and how it, you know, goes bottlenecks all the way up to the top, and it affects the national team negatively. Whether it's parents who are conspiring against the coach to overthrow him and his authority because their kid is not playing, or their son is not getting to play at a World Cup. That's a real thing that was happening, because they got, access to the coach. That's youth soccer type stuff that happens. Or it's the nepotism, handing opportunities to certain players because they have a certain amount of influence in their family. You know, it's a rich man's sport. It's an elitist sport in America. Soccer is. Soccer is associated with people who have financially have little to no financial woes, and so it's if I can pay to put my kid in travel soccer, if I can continue to pay that bill and get them seen at these camps and all that stuff and pay for a trainer, then my son will be, my kid will be straight in soccer. And if not, you might not have as much success. That individual, it's a bunch of individuals on the U.S. men's national soccer team that are trying to play together as a collective, and it's not working. You see, that stuff happens at the core of America. In America, we don't really know how to work together. Where we're taught, even in school, how we work together is very, 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 very individualistic. Um, when you're in class, it's like a group project is you do this part, I do this part, they do this part, and we put it together. When in reality, that's actually not how teamwork goes. It's a collaborative process in which everybody is together on it. It's not I take my piece of the pie, I take you take your piece of the pie, you do it, and then we bring it together. No, that's not how it works. But we are taught that is teamwork, so we don't really. And also, like, there's a different type of communication that goes on here. You see, in America, it's about who has the best way with their words. That's who wins it. Can you speak over somebody? Can you sway the crowd with your words? And whoever talks the loudest wins the leadership role. Whoever is the most kind of braggadocious and grandstanding wins that leadership role. So it's a lot of put on, a lot of fake it till you make it out in America, and I'm an American saying that, you know what I mean? It's not really addressing issues, not really knowing how to talk through issues. We're very polarized here in America. We polarize ourselves, where it's like ideologies and political thoughts and things of that nature. When you're having conversations about those type of things, there is no having a civil conversation and having a discussion. It is one person waiting on the other person to get done with their thought so they can say something. Not even getting done with it. It's just I'm going to talk over you. And a lot of that stuff spills into our sports arena. A lot of that stuff spills in, and you can see it because it's just like individualism. That is individualism at its finest. Let me get what I need to get off right here, right now, and then you do your thing when you have time to do your thing. And so that's what I see roaming around, and it's like there's an air of false confidence when I see the U.S. men's national team play. There's an air of, we playing against CONCACAF. You see, the thing is, Americans have played in CONCACAF obviously since the very beginning, and for the most part, it's always been the competition that they're gonna have to face. The hardest competition that the U.S. men's national team is probably going to face in CONCACAF historically has been Mexico. Costa Rica has a good team sometimes. Panama has a good team sometimes. Maybe Jamaica every once in a while, but really it's just Mexico. So the mentality, we don't understand that things can change. It's like, oh, we're playing against Panama today. Oh, that's a dub. That's the mentality, because we always beat them. That's our mindset. Oh, we're playing against Canada today. We always beat them, even though these particular teams have been stepping their game up, over the years, and they've been building their programs and their national teams and things of that nature, and they've kind of been passing us by in certain ways. Mainly speaking, Canada. And so, in these countries, they don't. A lot of these countries, they don't have other sports that kind of take the um, they don't have other sports that are distracting them. I mean, I know Canada has ice hockey that probably takes over, but make no mistake about it, soccer in Canada is very popular. It's a second. It's a second probably to ice hockey. You know what I mean? But soccer over here is a fourth, fifth, sixth tier sport. But in other countries, soccer is the main sport. So the intensity, the pride, and the passion is more. It's more. It means more to them because when it comes to getting recognized on the world stage, Panama's not going to get recognized on the world stage when it comes to basketball. Panama's not going to get recognized on the world stage, when it comes to baseball or handball or rugby and things of that nature. It's not going to happen for them. Their chance to shine and show their national pride and what their country means, put that on display. Their ability to show their nationalism, and support their country is going to come through the vehicle of soccer. So when they get a chance to put on, whether it be regionally or internationally, they're going to do it in soccer. But it's not like that with us. And also, like I said, there's a false confidence, there's a false arrogance that the U.S. men's national team has when they go out and they play against certain teams, specifically in the CONCACAF. So if they playing against, if it's not Mexico, we not getting up for it, really, basically, And you could just see it in the game. You ain't even got to watch the whole game. You just watch the highlights on CBS Golazo. You can watch how they maneuver. They're not really taking chances to break lines. Early in the beginning, they're gonna go out full head of steam and try to go for it. And if they don't score how they want to score early in the match, they kind of lay off and go sideways and backwards. The strikers aren't really trying to get in intelligent attacking positions. They're just kind of mindlessly wandering around and going through their little patterns that they've been probably taught to go through. And then you go through that, and then by the time the 90th minute comes, you like, should we go forward? Should we try to break the defensive line and get forward and then make the incision and score? No, let's like, we're eventually gonna, like, it's like, for us, it's like we're eventually gonna get there because we are superior to this team that we're playing, because it's not Mexico, it's CONCACAF, and it's not Mexico. Oh man, it might as well be the Bahamas. I'm dead serious. It might as well be like playing Puerto Rico. We eventually think it's just gonna happen, and you can see that in the fabric of when we. I can see it for me when I see youth soccer. I like, oh man, these teams like that. Nobody's really going for the jugular. Like, we don't really have anybody that's gonna go for the jugular and score that goal for real, for real. I know we got Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams. I know we got guys like that, even Josh Sargent, but they ain't really no killers in front of goal like that, for real, for real. They can score. They have been known to score, and they have been known to score in big-time games for their clubs and for the USA. But they're not killers. We don't have killers. We have players that are athletic, are gonna have an athletic build, gonna be in shape, um, technically sound when it comes to midfield work, um, more defensive midfielder, defensive. We got a bunch of sideways and backwards players. We got a bunch of defenders and industrious defenders and some technical defenders and hard fighting defenders, but we also got a bunch of midfielders too. When I say midfielders, I don't say attacking midfielders, or I mean mostly defensive midfielders and like holding. You know what I'm saying, like eights type players that are gonna they're not really going and breaking lines and causing trouble in the final third. They're not good. Our players don't do that. When we're got that private, you got that one-on-one session, and you getting in there, and it's like, before, when you're warming up, you get your 100 juggles in, and you weaving through the cones and that stuff. But really, it's like the goal doesn't even matter. The idea is possession, move the ball around, and eventually we'll be able to score somehow. It's no creativity. That's what it is. Like, we're not really, we lack in creativity. So when that time comes, we need to score that goal, and we really need it. Especially if we're down, it ain't gonna happen most of the time. It's like, and then we're left kind of, holding the bag. But I just seen that and I've seen that a lot of fans are, upset and kind of like surprised because like their thoughts is we always beat Panama, we always beat, this is the first time I think it's the first time that we haven't been in the final of the CONCACAF Nations League, something like that. But people were surprised in America. I'm like, I'm not surprised. If you're a U.S. men's national team fan, I don't think you should be surprised because it's just very lackluster. It hasn't really had the U.S. men's national team really hasn't had a certain fire to them since that 2000. I would say that 2010 and 2014 team, and even then, like we lacked a certain element when it came to even we had a killer. We had Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey, who I would consider, in that category of. I mean, I would consider them in the category of, at least for a certain time, like a certain window, killers. You know what I mean? Really could get in front of goal and score when it mattered. But that window that they had to be killers didn't last long. And so you come to this new generation, and it's not. And then also like the goalkeeper situation. A lot of people were saying stuff about like how Matt Turner didn't need to be in goal. It probably could have been Zach Steffen, and trying to blame it. That type of stuff right there. We were a country that used to be an embarrassment of riches in goal. It didn't matter. We always had a goalkeeper put in goal, and we do now with Zach Steffen, in my opinion. Even Matt Turner is still good, but I think that we're looking at the wrong thing here. I think we're trying to scapegoat, and it doesn't matter if we had Zach Steffen to play in goal and things of that nature. Landon Donovan said if Zach Steffen was in goal, he would have saved that. It didn't matter because, and Landon Donovan should know this too. Well, who is going to score the goal though to equalize or put us forward? Like, it doesn't matter. You could have Emmanuel Neuer in goal, or for us, Casey Keller or Brad Friedel or Tim Howard, anything of that nature. But it doesn't matter or Brad Guzan, but it doesn't matter if you don't have somebody that's going to go ahead and score and put you in a position to win the game. And I just think that American soccer is, we'll get them next time. You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of like how our professional sports are. It's like there's no promotion relegation, so it's all closed system. So it's like if you're the New York Giants or the Cleveland Browns and you suck year in year out, Jacksonville Jaguars, we'll get them next year. We'll get them next year. That's the mentality of the U.S. men's national team. We'll get them next year. Everybody's comfortable. Everybody makes millions of dollars. Everybody's got their contracts. Everybody's everybody's solid technically and stuff like that for the most part. And then it's like we're just gonna breeze through the game. It's like if you just see it, just watch it. The U.S. men's national team. It's like like we went out and we warmed up and we went through our game tactics and the checklist of stuff. It's like that's how it is in America. You checking the boxes. You know what I mean? Like we did A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You know what I mean? Got your spreadsheet of what you did up, but it don't equal to winning because they didn't factor in desire, passion, will, and want, and we don't have it. Like we don't have that desire factor when it comes to. We don't have the will to want to win when it comes to soccer in the United States. In the national team level, on the men's side. We don't have that desire to go and grab the game by the horns and go get it. You know, we just think it's gonna come to us, and you can see that flow down in the youth, all the way from all the way down. You know, the grassroots and stuff like that. Like you can just see it. Like everybody is just trying not to make a mistake, basically. You know, but that's not how the game of soccer is. It's great risk, great reward. You got to be creative and go for it. It rewards people who are bold. The game of soccer rewards the players who are bold enough to go and take it. You know, the momentum. I don't think. I think that people in this country are so obsessed with data and analytics, which is fine, I guess, but you do that too long and you forget that the game goes in ebbs and flows, and it goes off of momentum, and that type of stuff right there. You if you don't factor that in, you will go through the 90-minute period plus extra time. We go through it with a sort of naivety. We just very naive about the way the game works. We don't have a feel for it. You know, it's very checklist robot-y, you know. Like I said, you know, I have a problem with like, you know, physical, physically in shape, and even like technically on some parts, like we understand at a level like how to operate, and move the ball around and stuff like that. Possession, we kind of caught up to that, but that last part, which matters the most, which is putting the ball in the back of the net, we lack it. It's not there. It's not there. And until we get that particular part of our game down, I could just see it. I'm telling you, like, I've been a part of practices and observed practices where, you know, we're at that part of the practice where we're scrimmaging and we're supposed to be going to goal. And you got people, and I'm talking about the goals have been pushed in like 25 yards apart. So as you're playing on short fields, and strikers will be in front of goal and like won't pull the trigger, you know, want to recycle the ball at the top of the 18, because their teammates are gonna yell at them if they miss it and stuff like that. So it's like, and the coach is like recycle, this and that. It's just, I think that there's a missing element when it comes to soccer in the USA, and it's the desire. It's the will to want to win. It's not like that when it comes to basketball and football and stuff like that, and even baseball, because we have that trigger, we have that switch, we have the coaches that know how to coach that and bring that out and pull it out. We have the players who, because those sports are so ingrained into the American psyche, and even the fans, like how they interact with the game and stuff, you see that they want it too, and so that energy goes towards the players, and they're like, okay, let's do it. This is how we're gonna do it. This is how we're gonna win. But you don't see that in soccer. For the U.S. men's national team, it doesn't look like this is how we're gonna win. No, it's we are getting up for certain games to play, or if it's not Mexico or one of these European teams, we are not getting up to play it. But the thing is, when you're getting ready to play one of the upper echelon teams, like a Holland, or even a Japan, like that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't understand. Like, I remember we did a friendly against Japan, and we walked out on that pitch, and we played in America. We walked out on that pitch like we were just gonna beat Japan. Japan beat us 2-0. You know what I mean? Even teams like when we play teams like Ukraine, like the Ukraine is a good soccer team, but we'll treat the Ukraine like that's a walk in the park. We'll treat a team like Serbia like it's a walk in the park too. If it's not one of those big four like Germany, France, Spain, Holland, Belgium, or something like that, we're not getting up for it. And it's like, you can't do that, because if you're not having an intensity and a game plan to really dominate and try to win, or a desire to do that, you know, whenever you get a chance to play a Netherlands or a Portugal or England or something like that, you're not gonna win. The best you'll get is a draw, and the draw you get is gonna be hard fought. It's gonna feel like a win because you was fighting so hard for the draw. And I think that it's unfortunate because I don't really even know how to break. I don't even know how you would break that. Especially me as a goalkeeper. Like I don't even know how you would break through with that. For me, it's like you gotta really want to score. You know what I mean? You can't just be passing it off and expecting somebody else. That's the thing when it comes to scoring goals in America and the U.S. men's national team. Somebody else always wants somebody to do that job. Nobody wants to do that job. Nobody wants to do the job of scoring the goal. They're always trying to get somebody else to do it. And somebody just gotta grab the bull by the horns. Um, so that's what I wanted to come on and talk about, and I just and the fans are surprised, as well. Like I said, because I think that there's a bit of naive, there's a naive thing going on with us where we're like, surely we'll beat Panama, surely we'll beat Canada. We always do, but you're not realizing that a lot of these teams, these international teams that we play against recently, like they're catching up. They're catching up and they're passing us mentality wise. They're not passing us in terms of like facilities and stuff like that. We still got some decent facilities. I don't know for how long, because of how our situation, are we going to war, are we not? The rising costs and things like that. We could turn into a, third, fourth, fifth, nobody nation, sixth, you know, developing nation over time. It's going to take time for that to happen. But right now, that's not an issue. We still got some of the best facilities and things like that, and resources for our players to play in at the national level, at the national team level. But mentality wise, it's not there. Mentality wise, like soft. The mentality wise, like we can't fight through adversity. Um, you know, and that's just something that I wanted to discuss because I felt like it was necessary to say. Um, because a lot of that stuff is in the very fabric. Even like just the conversation around soccer players in this country itself is like soccer players. What most Americans think of soccer players is like, dude, soccer players is like girly. Soccer here is like a sport for the females. You know, it's like because we do all the diving and we do all the complaining and stuff like that. Like it's a diva sport. You know what I mean? You have certain positions in other sports in America where like it's diva like in certain positions. There's certain positions associated with divaness, but when the whole sport is associated with being a diva, when every single thing about it is people think, oh, it's soft, like that's soft, then that's when you got the real issue. You know what I'm saying? That's the real issue right there, and that's the mentality. On soccer's for the dude, soccer's for soft. Soccer's a soft sport here, and so that type of attitude goes on the field where it's like ain't nobody really grabbing life by the balls on the field. You can tell. It's like, you know, or it's like if they don't get a certain call, they like complain and stuff like that, and that happens in other sports too. But the difference is they get back on it and they still locked in. Like we'll be taken out of the game if we don't get a certain call in the U.S. men's national team. You know what I mean? We'll be complaining about the refs. We'll be complaining about this. We'll be complaining about that. Um, and it'll throw us off, you know. And so that mentality of not being able to fight through adversity to get to victory. You know what I mean? Um, conditions have to be like perfect for the United States men's national team to have victory, or we have to be playing a certain person, a certain team for it to bring it out of us. But by the time that we get up for that particular team and stuff like that, like it, but we already we've already like trained ourselves for that loss because if you're constantly just like, okay, I'll be on my best game when I play this team, that team. It's not gonna work. You gotta be ready for it all. You know what I mean? And so, you know, Barcelona isn't just getting up for Real Madrid. They're getting up for Levante. They're getting up for Espanyol. They're getting up for Villarreal. Same thing with Real Madrid. You know, they're not just getting up for the El Clasico. Man City is not just getting up for Man U. Tottenham is not just getting up for Arsenal. Well, these days they are probably. But, yeah, you got to be locked in, and I just don't think the U.S. men's national team is locked in when it comes to mentality. So, anyway, that's all I wanted to come on the pod to say. Thanks for listening. Y'all have a good night. Talks Radio, Tevin West.